Alright, welcome to our second season, episode 1 of TACTALK. I am your host, Alden Morris. It's been a couple weeks since we've actually last broadcasted with TACTALK. We took the beginning of December off, the middle of December off, of course. We took the holidays off. And we were going to raise a fundraiser for season 2 to see, because a lot of you guys want to see live footage, live broadcasts when it comes to these podcast shows. Unfortunately, because Facebook is fascism, and they don't agree with other people's liberal or libertarian type views, they felt that it wasn't necessary to run a donations fund for season 2 TACTALK. So, and I'm not going to start up one of those other websites with a donation fund, like the GoFundMe and all that. It's just too much of a hassle. So we're just going to jump right into season 2, 20 episodes. If you are interested in commercial advertisements, do reach out to the show. Reach me, Alden Morris, out of my Facebook or my email, amorris@alldonmarketing.com, or just anywhere you can reach me. We do offer the remainder of the season's episodes for 30-second commercials for a good price. So if you're interested in that, you own a business, you want to get some advertisement out there, let us know. Moving on. Merry Christmas. We are jumping on this on today, December 28th, 2018. It is currently 10:33 a.m. on this pre-recorded broadcast of TACTALK Season 2, Episode 1. We're going to be doing pre-recorded broadcasts and then putting it up live to Facebook Live. So, just after Christmas, we had a Christmas and a Christmas Eve a couple days ago. I've got my daughters here. They've had a great Christmas, and we are early for the New Year. So we're going to say Happy New Year in case I'm not broadcasting then. Moving on. Recent highlights. One of the reasons why I wanted to jump right back into Season 2, Episode 1 of TACTALK was because there's been a lot of what I thought was funny events going on when it comes to current events and political affairs. For example, one thing that I cannot stand are career politicians, people who will promise you one thing, like our governor here in Washington State, Jay Inslee. Hey, I'm going to campaign, and I'm not going to raise a single tax. If you vote for me, I will not raise a single tax if you re-elect me. And yet he's done everything left and right to tax us, to literally tax us, from a state income tax to a carbon tax that was going to generate billions of dollars on something that we don't even pollute on a level that we should be taxed as much. So, and again, taxes are a form of punishment. Just like the sin tax was a form of punishment for you to stop buying soda and cigarettes and candy, and income taxes and state income taxes is a way for you to feel bad for working. So one thing that I hate most about these type of politicians is that they don't seem to have the mindset for the average American, we'll say middle class American. Which covers a lot of people. I mean, they're separating the differences real quick from class warfare when it comes to the rich versus the poor. And the further we separate this middle class, the further we dive down and destroy the middle class, the more of a rich-poor class we have. And the poor never will have any rights, and the rich will have all the rights. So that seems to be Jay Inslee's goal as he's preparing for his presidential run. And, comes to episode 2, we'll be... if I could get Jay Inslee on the show, that'd be great. But like Dory Monson, I highly doubt he'll ever come on my show. In fact, I wouldn't even want him on my show because I don't have too many nice things to say to him because of how he runs his governorship. So moving on, one thing that I've pointed out, not saying that I would do it personally, but one thing I feel that needs to be done is a lot more examples need to be made. If you guys have listened to my show before, you've heard me say that we used to hang politicians for less. And in Russia, for example, they have this annual event where they actually throw politicians in dumpsters and in trash chutes that are corrupt, that are actually just there to lie to the people and take a paycheck and then make a career and get a retirement out of it. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And so one thing that surprised me, and as after we ended our last season, season 1, come November 26th of 2018, someone hung nooses at the Mississippi Capitol on eve of racially charged U.S. Senate runoff, which is funny because this again it's almost like they're race baiting it, which is hilarious. They've race baited this one, but what I thought was hilarious is we used to hang politicians for less, and here we are. There's nooses now hanging from the Mississippi Capitol down at the U.S. Senate. So whether, and I'm not going to feed into it. I'm not going to say it was a black or a white thing. That's ridiculous. I mean, for some of the first black senators were Republican, and I consider myself of the Republican Party. So Let's not go there. Let's not say it's racist. But what I like to say is that they aren't trying to hang nooses to hang necessarily blacks. They're hanging nooses in order to hang corrupt politicians, whether you're black or white. So we have quite a few corrupt politicians, and I can name off a lot of white ones that need to be hung. So, and in my strongest opinion, a public execution makes a great example of why you shouldn't do something. So, moving on here. I just wanted to highlight that. It's another reason why I want to jump on topic. So we'll see how that develops down in Mississippi. It was one of those things that hit the news for a day and went off the news because they couldn't keep it racially charged. So they gave up on that one. We kind of see through it anyways. But one thing I do want to talk about, and if we have time here before the break, let me see here. Yeah, we're running. We're not going to have time here before the break. We're going to have time here after the break. After the break, when we get back, we're going to be listening to highlights and information on the I-1639 here in Washington State. I've got an article pulled up here by the News Tribune out of Tacoma, Washington, written November 11th, 2018, about here's what state regulations will look like after the passage of I-1639. And it's just, it's not fair. And what I'm going to say right now is we have the City of Republic here in Washington State that's not going to obey or uphold these laws that are going to be on file. Remember, this is the state legislation. This is not state law. We are not a democracy. We are not a majority vote. We are a republic. You know, I don't know why people think that, oh, if I vote, they have to listen. And I don't know why people seem to think, well, if I vote, it'll work. I mean, if we voted drugs to be illegal, why are there people still doing drugs? In fact, if we voted drugs to be illegal, why is our own city of Seattle here in Washington State literally setting up safe injection sites and then making the taxpayers pay for it? If drugs are illegal, why are you paying for the drugs to be used by other people? How does that make sense? So if we're gonna pick and choose laws that we're not gonna listen to, we're gonna pick and choose laws that we are gonna listen to. And I'll tell you right now, I, for one, will not be listening to any regulations that belongs or exists to I-1639. I will see its overturn. If it wants to make me a felon, I will become a felon. Because we're done. We're done with these overbearing regulations on our Second Amendment rights when it says simply that shall not be infringed. Simply put. Simply freaking put. So, we're up on 7.5 minutes. When we get back, we'll talk about I-1639. I do want to message some of the new Bees Combat Systems gridlock pouches, kind of explain what gridlock is, and that'll be our first episode. So here's a quick commercial, and we'll be right back. Thanks for listening. Bees Combat Systems at beescombatsystems.com. Protecting those who prepare. 801-987-0893 for custom body armor carriers and tactical gear for military, law enforcement, contractors, corporate security, responsible citizens, and border patrol. Bees Combat Systems at beescombatsystems.com. 801-987-0893. Alright, and welcome back to our second half of the show here at TACTALK Season 2, Episode 1. I'm your host, Alden Morris. We're going to dive right into the I-1639 article by Joseph O'Sullivan here. It's what state regulations will look like after the passage of I-1639. Washington voters last week approved a sweeping package of gun regulations, the latest in a handful of firearms-related initiatives in recent years. Now, mind you, before I read into this, the writers of this bill of Initiative 1639 have already set their eyes on banning high-capacity magazines and doing another weapons assault ban here in Washington State. So that's another reason why we're not going to listen, because in their opinion, anything that's considered a high-capacity magazine is over 10 rounds. And I can't tell you how many people carry a firearm, whether it's a sidearm or that has 10 rounds or less in their magazine. I mean, I, for one, I've worked in fields where I've had a service pistol. I've worked in fields where I've had a personal pistol, and both of them, Glock 19, Glock 17, one holds 15 rounds plus one, the other one holds 17 rounds plus one. So right there, they're trying to ban my stock magazines for Glock that Glock out of Austria makes. So Moving on, Initiative 1639 passed with more than 60% of the vote. Opponents say they will sue to block the law. Here's a quick recap of the initiative. And it goes on to talk about just a real quick recap. One thing that this author points out that I thought was really great. What about the safe storage provision? The answer. That's the other big part of I-1639. The initiative creates gross misdemeanor and felony classes of a new crime, community endangerment. It doesn't mandate that firearm owners lock their guns away. Now, mind you, again, it does not mandate that firearm owners lock their guns away, but owners could be charged under those community endangerment crimes if someone not allowed to access a firearm, such as a child or a felon, gets the weapon and displays it publicly, causes it to discharge, or uses it in a crime. Now here, it doesn't mandate that you lock your firearm away. It doesn't. Meaning that your own home is not a place considered to be locked away for a firearm. Meaning, if I have my pistol, my service pistol, I'm a cop. No, I'm not really a cop, but I'm saying if I were a cop, and I had my service pistol next to my desk, or in my desk drawer, next to my bed, where I usually keep my pistol, it says that if someone breaks into my house and takes my service weapon as an officer, I could be held under a crime for that weapon being used in a crime. So, or that weapon being brandished, so that weapon not being... So there's too many problems here with that, because you break into my freaking house and you steal one of my pieces of property, which is my firearm. You've already committed the first law. You've already broken the first law. Now you're breaking more laws. I don't see how I can be held accountable for someone breaking into my home. And I don't see how this legislation can consider your home not to be locked away. So moving on, owners who keep a gun secured in a safe or a lockbox or with a trigger lock or a similar device would not be subject to charges if someone who shouldn't have the firearm gets possession of it. Now that goes to say that if you break into my home and I have a gun safe, and you break into my gun safe, well, now I don't get charged. Talk about a conundrum. Moving on. The community endangerment charges also don't apply if a prohibited person obtains a gun because of unlawful entry. Oh, well, there we go. As long as the gun owner reports the incident within 5 days of the time he or she knew or should have known it occurred. So, if someone breaks into your house, this is what they're saying now, later, which I highly doubt that'll be the case. It's saying you have 5 days to report it, which is a funny thing because I've heard other actual sites say that you have 24 hours to report it. So, this legislation is so out of whack. I mean, we got one article saying one thing, another article saying another thing. We got one legislation saying another. We got the writers of this legislation already setting their sights on high-capacity magazines. We have sheriffs of towns coming out saying they will not enforce this law. Moving on, at least 16 states have criminal liability for a gun owner if a firearm is improperly stored and a child uses or carries it. 11 states have laws that either encourage or require trigger lock or secure storage devices for guns. So, half the law went into effect, or is going to go into effect January 1st. What I think is most bizarre is it restricts now 18 to 21-year-olds from being able to buy a rifle. If you are 19 years old right now, if you are 20 years old right now, if you are 18 years old right now, and you have purchased your own legal rifle, and this bill is going to be put into quote-unquote legislation, because again, we're following laws that we're pick and choosing here, right? Since they want to pick and choose laws, we're going to pick and choose laws that we're going to follow. If you're 18, 19, 20 years old, and this comes out before you turn 21, from what I've read, and what I've heard, and what I've spoken about with other experts on the topic, is that they will go after you, that they will confiscate your weapon. Which, if that's the case for you, then come on to the show TACTALK. We'll build up a community of representatives. We'll build up a community of defenders, both legal and non-legal. Because I don't believe that if you've legally purchased that rifle, that you can have it confiscated. No, if you're 19 years old and you own your own rifle, and they want to come after, Molan Labe, we'll be right there with you, brother. So, let us know here on the show, if you know anybody who's 18, 19, 20 years old, and you think that they might have to turn in their firearm, give us a contact us here at the show. Alden Morris TACTALK. I mean, the best I can say is I can get you exposure that will build up that team of defenders, recognition, representatives, whatever you want to call it. You're going to have that moral support and that actual legal support once we can get you exposed here on the show. And we're not going to expose you and have your property confiscated, because that's an act of war right there. We're not going to, no one takes anyone else. It says shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed is pretty obvious. When does the law go into effect? January 1st. Who was behind this initiative? This was the third ballot measure brought by the Alliance for Gun Responsibility in recent years in response to the mass shootings nationwide, as well as other less publicized firearm-related deaths and injuries, which they're mostly ruling out suicides, because I can tell you right now the number one statistic crime with a firearm is suicide, meaning people kill themselves with their own guns, legally purchased. Nothing you can ever do to prevent that, unless you want to control people's lifestyle and say you can't commit suicide anymore. Who were the opponents? The largest opposition groups were the National Rifle Association and a pair of Bellevue-based gun rights organizations, the Second Amendment Foundation, and Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. These groups raised about $610,000 in cash and in-kind donations to fight the measure, campaign finances records show. Like I said, we're living in a state of politics now where we're at 7.5 minutes. We're living in a state of politics now where we can pick and choose the laws we want to follow and that we don't want to follow. Since our politicians want to make up unjust laws, well, you have a duty to not uphold those unjust laws. So, kudos to the sheriff of the city of Republic. Kudos to the sheriffs of other cities of surrounding counties that are refusing to enforce these laws, that are refusing to even acknowledge these laws. I hope you do the same. That's going to be the end of our episode 1 of season 2 of TACTALK. Again, I'm your host, Alden Morris. If you have any suggestions on the next episodes, let me know. I've got a topic list going up. We're going to have guests on the show this season as well. I'm going to try to have more guests than we did last season. Like I said, right now, everyone's homework. If you want to find out, if you have a little brother, a little sister, if you have a cousin, if you have a friend, if you just know somebody that's looking at being one of the victims of this legislation of I-1639, someone who has not legally done anything wrong, someone who's never committed a crime, someone who purchased their firearm absolutely rightfully, and they're looking at some kind of fear of retaliation because some legislation passed in a country where it's a republic, where it's about the individual rights, not the majority vote, then you contact us at the show and we'll get it going. We're not going to just expose them. We're going to get the people out there after that exposure to help support that. I mean, I myself will stand on the front lines with my rifle, telling them to come take it. Come take this 19-year-old kid's rifle. See what's going to happen when you break the law. So, and the Constitution is as plain as simple as it gets. So, thanks for listening, guys. We just went over our time limit. And like I said, we'll be back for episode 2 here either tomorrow or the next day. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening, guys. You guys have a good night.